Welcome back, everyone. Well, we're changing gears a little bit today. Now, I know this isn't the kind of video I would normally post, and we'll be back on the bus here shortly. But as of right now, I'm doing some indoor work. So I'm putting some drawer pulls on the drawers and cabinets in my kitchen, something I hadn't done before. But the plan was to use some of these that, let me show you what we got here. Kind of an oiled bronze double attachment point here, so 2 screws coming through the drawer. So obviously when you put something like this on, you need to make sure you get it centered on the drawer both vertically and horizontally. You also want to make sure with something like this, unlike a single drawer pull in the middle, that it's sitting straight side to side. So there are a lot of ways you can deal with this. These first few I actually put on by marking a piece of 1x6 lumber at the locations for the 2 holes. Once I had that marked, I went ahead and drilled my holes with a 3/16 drill bit, and then basically set the thing right up here on the face of the drawer, made sure it was centered left to right, top to bottom, clamped it on with a quick clamp, and then drilled through. The problem was, when I drilled my holes through the original template, I didn't use a drill press. I was using a handheld drill, and I must not have been perfectly straight. So actually, the holes, when they come through this drawer, were not perfectly straight either. They were kind of angled off to the side, and the problem with that, it meant that things didn't line up when I went to put the hardware in. So you can do this with a piece of scrap lumber. It works a lot better if you either have somebody who can help show you that your hole is being drilled perpendicular to the lumber, or if you happen to have a drill press to use. If you don't have any of that equipment, here's a way to do it without spending a whole lot of money and get it perfect every single time. So this is what I bought. This was off of Amazon. Basically, it's a jig that allows you to put the hardware into a drawer without any difficulty. So what it comes with, this is all separated when you get it in the box. The top piece here, this piece is designed to sit on top of the drawer. This is your vertical and your horizontal. These two slide together, so you just have to make sure you're lined up on the 0 line when you put these two together here. And then these two are the ones that I'm going to be using to drill my holes. So obviously right here in the middle is a center point. And if you look at this, 0 line is right through the middle of that. So when you put these others on for a double attachment, they line up as well. So the way this works, you take your handle and you want to get it pretty close. So basically just make sure you're centered on here and then line up these 2 pieces to match the points where your bolts are going to go in. So the other way you can handle this, you could actually take the hardware that's going to hold this handle, slide it through these 2 holes from the back to the front, and just go ahead and attach your drawer handle to the mechanism here. Basically, you'd end up with something like this. So in that position, you now know that these 2 are far enough apart to where they're lined up exactly right for this to work. Then all we have to do is make sure that the whole assembly is centered. So again, here's our 0 line. So you can see there's a 0 line on the vertical and a 0 line on the horizontal. So make sure those 2 line up before you lock this down with these 2 thumb screws. And then make sure that this assembly is centered on it when you mark everything out. Then you have one more piece over here that I'll be using here shortly. This slides onto the side over here and gives you something that you can then put up against the side of the drawer. So this way you can set center from here to wherever the side piece is located, and center from here to the top piece, and put this on your drawers. So the way I've been doing this, I've been using the top support but not the side support when I put these on. So you can see up here I've already done this drawer. This is currently set for the larger drawers, the taller ones like I have here. So basically what I'm going to do is pull this out, and then from here I can just set this right on top of it. Okay? Now, what I can do with this, so I don't have to create a side point, I can just measure the distance between the side of this piece of metal and the side of the drawer and make sure that it's even on both sides using a tape measure. That makes it really quick and easy, so I don't have to reset my side-to-side measurement every time I do a drawer, since a lot of mine are not the same shape. Then from here, once you have it in the right place, you just hold this still. So I just kind of pinch it by pushing on this here, and then you drill through the 2 holes down here. Since I'm using a 2-point attachment, I'll drill through this hole, and that should give me exactly what I need. Okay, so I'm pretty close to centered. Now, because this drawer is actually narrower than the crossbar, I can actually use that as a measurement and just center it with that. But because you might have some drawers that are wider than that, here's another way. So just take your tape measure and push it up against the back of this. So I am at, right now, 1 inch and 7/16 to the end of the drawer. I'm going to take a measurement on the other side over here. And here, come on, I'm actually a 1/16 too close. So I'm going to push this over to the right just a little bit, right there. That should center it. Now here's another piece that's important. You want to make sure that when you have a bank of drawers like this that are vertical, that your handles line up top to bottom. So what I'm going to do here is actually push this in a little bit, right to there. And I want to see what's centered. So actually, when I look at this, I'm looking at the position of these edges as compared to the drawer handle up top. I'm actually just a touch off, so I'm going to center it just by eye right there. Okay, so that should be centered right where it is. I'm centered on the drawer because this was pre-measured and placed in the right spot. So I know I'm where I need to be here. So I'm going to take my 3/16 drill bit, and I'm just going to push in here and drill. You may need to pull this out a couple of times just to get the threads to clear. To get the bit to clear. There we go. There we are, one down. Just make sure you hold this in the same place. Okay, 2 down. So from here, I now have my 2 holes. I'm going to reach inside and just make sure I don't have any burrs or extra material in there. Okay. Take out our drawer handle here. So these drawer handles that I'm using did come with the necessary hardware, so in my case I need to use the longer bolts to get through. These, I believe, are 832 machine screws. So just in case yours didn't come with any hardware, you might be able to get this from your standard hardware store. What we're going to do is push these out from the inside. Where's my hole? There's my hole. Right there. And there we go. Okay. Now start with one. Line it up, and I'm just turning that bolt with my fingers on the inside to get it to lock in. So now we're right where I need to be. Bring it up, line up the other one, do the same thing. If you got your measurements right, then this should easily drop into place. So you can see here, we're right where I need to be. Now, I'm going to grab my Phillips screwdriver. Just happen to have a spare, so I'm going to push it inside here. And just tighten it up. There we go. One more. Okay, we're tight, and it lines up nicely right where it is. So we're going to do the same thing on the bottom here, repeating the technique, and we'll be done with this bank. One more time. Okay, there we A little bit too far to the right. Right about there ought to be about right. So again, if you were going to use the side marker for the drawer, once you had this in position, or you could measure it if you wanted to. You would basically take this, loosen it up, and from here I can slide this on, right like that, slide it over until it contacts the drawer, and tighten it down. So from here, I'm now centered on this drawer. So if I take this off, I can slide it back on here, put it right back in position, and I'm right back where I was. So if you do have a bunch of drawers that are all the same dimensions, this is a really easy way to make sure that everything will line up exactly the way you want it to, instead of measuring each drawer individually. So this also holds this in place a little bit more, so it makes it a little easier to drill your holes without moving things. There we go. Just like that. And there is our last one. We'll pull this out. Again, hardware from the inside. Now before I put this in, I do reach in there and just make sure there aren't any pieces of wood that might have splintered in the process of doing this. Just get that nice and clean before I put these on. There's one. And two. One. And two. Okay, one bank of drawers done. Now, let me reset a few things. I want to show you how I'm going to do this on the cabinet doors. Alright, for the cabinets I got these that are a bit longer. So, similar design, just longer than what you have there. So my plan is to mount these vertically, kind of down in here. I think I might try to line them up with the cross piece on the cabinet, and I want them centered on this piece of wood here. So the first thing we need to know is, where do we set our holes here for the mounting point? Because obviously, as you see, these don't line up. So I need to make sure that I can adjust these appropriately. So first place to look, take a look at the packaging that came with it. So I know it's difficult to see that, but what we have here, this has some metric and some not metric information on here, but the one we're looking for is this one right here, center to center 96 millimeter, C to C 96 millimeter. So theoretically speaking, that should mean that if I set this to 96 millimeters, then I should be arranged properly. So what I want to do, I need to take 96 and divide it by 2. So 90 divided by 2 is 45, plus an extra 3. So 48. So we have here 48, right there. Okay. Lock it down. So this one over here is now 48 off center. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So we go to 40, there's 50, 49, 48, right there. Okay, that should be wide enough for this to work. Let's find out. Okay, it lines up really nicely. So we have the proper distance between the two, and we're centered because I measured each one individually. Now I need to figure out where this is going to go on this door. So, my vertical here, alright, I'm going to do it this way. Okay, so I want to center this on the raised portion of the wood here. So I have exactly 2 inches from side to side here. So I want to make sure I'm 1 inch in, and let's figure out where we stand here. So we're at about okay, so I want this at 1.25 inches in from the outside of the cabinet. So that means when I set this, I need to set it at 1.25 inches from there. So 1 inch and 1/4. Just double check and make sure. There's 1.5 inches up there. There's 2. So 2, 1/8, 1/4, 1/2. Right there. Okay, so 1.25 inches right there. Alright, so let's test this. I'm going to take this side marker off. This isn't what I want to use at the moment. So, I'm going to set this on here and see how it looks. Yeah, that's about where I want it. That puts it right about there. Good, I like it. Okay, now, my plan was to try to center this so the middle of the mounting hole is right here in line with that point. And I want to make this so every one of these sits that way. So the way I can do this, here's my mounting hole, and you can see the line here lines up all the way across, which actually lines up with the center of this thumb screw. So I can judge this a little bit, put it right there. There we are. Now we're going to take this piece, drop it on the top here, drop it there, just like that. Okay, we're lined up and locked down. Okay, so now every time I put this on here, it's going to line up exactly the way I want it to. Now, if you've paid attention, you'll notice that this won't work for the other door. I'm going to have to flip it upside down and put this piece on the other side. So I need to make sure that I know where this is. So to make it simple, I'm actually going to line this up at 6 centimeters off of center. That makes it easy to remember. You don't have to do it this way, but that will definitely do the job right there. So there we are. With that in position, I can hold this right in the middle and drill my holes. Okay, hold it in position. Remember to pull your door out a little bit so you don't drill into something you didn't intend. There's one. There's 2. Okay, and if I did this right, those should line up. And I should be able to use the smaller screws on this one. Yeah, that'll work. Okay, again, clean up the back of the wood here a little bit. There we are, 1 and 2. Now, okay, we're started. There we go. Okay, screwdriver. Sure, you could use a power screwdriver if you wanted to, but these don't take a lot of effort. And you can get one of these at any hardware store. There we go. Alright, so we are centered. Now, obviously when it comes to the door pulls for the for the doors like this, I want to make sure that this one lines up with the one across from it. So the way I'm going to do that, and when I put these together, I'm actually going to set it back at this and do every left-handed door, so door with the hinges on the left side here, all at one time, and then reset it later. But for now, just for demonstration purposes, I was 6 centimeters off midline, so I'm going to take this side piece off, flip this over, and put this back on. And we go down until we line up at 6 centimeters off center. Okay, for those of you who caught my mistake, good for you. Feel free to put it down in the comments below, because this definitely happens. That's not a 6, that's a 9. There's 8, there's 10. So I was 9 centimeters off over here. That's where I was lined up. And I'm going to be 9 centimeters over here. So by doing that, that means this now sits right here. Lock it down nice and solid right there. And I can drill my holes, and they should line up exactly with the other pole. Just hold it nice and tight. There's one. There's 2. Okay. Now, let's grab another one of our cabinet poles. Again, short hardware. Pull this out, clean up the back. There we go. There's one. Same thing here. Just kind of push things around till it lines up. There it is. All right. Screwdriver. Nice and tight. One more. There we are. Okay. So now we have 2 door handles here lined up exactly the same spot. They're right across from each other, just like I like them. And they're pretty close to centered on there. If I really wanted to be picky about it, I could certainly take some better measurements from here, this seam, over to the edge, and try to figure out centered on there. I'm a little bit closer to the outside than I am the inside, but that will work just fine. And obviously, as long as I use the same settings on the device for everything I do, then everything will be in that orientation. So I can make sure that everything lines up the way it's supposed to. So, until next time, hope you enjoy the project you get into, and I'll see you over the next horizon.